Gerald has a fascinating background. When him and I met, this is like early days of the AI hype post ChatGPT. He was already accomplished as someone who was in product management, in engineering, some of the big names in fintech and healthcare, and was working in AI and data science already. And then, like many of us crazies, he said, no, I want to go build something of my own. And not only just build something of my own, I want to do something that is purpose driven, that helps build money in this AI space, but also helps others, individuals, especially when you think about mid career, mid level to executives who are like in this market. How do we position ourselves for higher paying jobs, and how do we become magnets for companies that we want to be part of when everything is uncertain right now? And he put everything in to say, this is what I'm going to build. So, with that, welcome, Gerald. Thank you for coming on this.
Well, thank you so much, Shujaat. This has just been a pleasure. It's an honor to be on this journey with you as well as founders. And I also remember all the thoughtful questions. We're part of a mastermind, I would call it, that allows us to meet a lot of great people. And you and I really do our best to spice up things. And so I really enjoy that. And I enjoy how we've blossomed as friends and also colleagues. So you asked me a question about how did I get started. So it is a long journey, but we only have a couple of minutes together, so I'll do the short version. So initially, I started out in electrical engineering, and then I did mechanical engineering, and then software engineering. In all areas, I did get degrees. My last degree was in software, on the software side. And when I first started out, I had a great opportunity to work on both sides of the engineering spectrum. The side where I was building copiers and printers using mechanical devices and troubleshooting with electrical devices. And then my manager's like, you're really too good at the troubleshooting. You should go into software. And so for the first 5 years, I was leading 21 people. I was even just out of college. And these people were building, I wouldn't say just people, they were just incredible craftsmen who were actually building the product. And after we built the product, I started writing the software for the product. So I got to see the entire life cycle, what it feels like to create a part, send it to a vendor, and it takes 6 weeks to get built. And then you have all of the testing and modifications of it. And so we learned to be very precise when we were actually building out this incredible printer copy. It was called iGen 3 at the time. It was one of the first printers that can print color front and back and do 100 printing pages per minute. When we first started, it took us almost a year plus to just do the design. The next 2 years, we built one prototype. And then
Wow.
after that, when I left Xerox 13 years later, we were building close to 92 a day. So I got to see that entire pipeline and also be on the other side of writing software for the same system. And this was my initial early days. Then I moved over into healthcare and I had an incredible opportunity to really help physicians and people in the hospital. And what we called it was safety surveiller. So imagine this, somebody goes into the hospital and they have MRSA or something that's contagious. Back then, there was no way to alert everybody that this was an issue. Instead, it was just by proximity to the person if you knew that there was a problem. So what we did was we read HL7 data, which is the data that is put into these systems in order to share information with everybody before AI was there. And then it would send a blast to everybody's phone telling them the location and when the person that may be contagious. And this actually saved lives, especially when you're dealing with people who had no idea that this person was contagious. Then they take it home and people were actually dying. So we were able to build a system that within collects the data, and then within 5 minutes, it's sending out a ton of alerts, letting people know, hey, this place is contaminated. You need to move away. So that was another major jump in my career where I got to see how technology was actually making the human lives better. And then my last stint, which I always credit it as I got an opportunity to use electrical, mechanical, but when you do that, you may lose sight of leadership. And so I was fortunate to move into the next phase of my life where I got to work as fintech. But their desire was not for my technical skills only. They wanted me to step up as a leader. And from that perspective, it was an amazing journey where I got to work with very talented folks. Uh, Credit Karma is one of the companies that I work for, which has 140 million users and
Oh.
about 100,000 people plus come to the site every day. So we were working at scale and we got to use all the latest technologies. But my job there as a director of engineering was definitely guiding the product, but I actually got to work with AI and machine learning day in, day out, because I was part of the team that worked on fraud prevention. So anytime somebody wanted to use their credit card or they wanted to use what we call a money card, then we would actually have to make it safe for you to use your money. And that is an incredible feat. We got to see every aspect of how fraudsters were taking money from people. And then we had to use AI, graph technology, and all the different things to make sure that every single transaction was secure for our customers. It was incredible, exhilarating, and all the things. And that was even before we were talking about the AI changes we see today. So I got to see a lot of that. And then
So
lastly, just on a personal side, I am married to my wife for about 23 years. She's from Nigeria, Africa. I do have four kids. Two are biological, and then two we adopted from Burundi, Africa. And so it was just an amazing experience. And we thank God for our opportunity to be able to support families in this way. And then lastly, I am now a business owner. I am a co-founder of a company called Reference Me. And our primary purpose is to help companies reduce the total cost and work in progress of accessing top talent. In addition to that, we also have a consulting program where we help executives get hired in this AI environment. And what we found is the learnings that we've gotten from speaking to so many executives about how difficult it is to get jobs today, we've been able to crack that code. And I'll share one last story, which is amazing. Just recently, I got a call from one of our clients, and he had a 16-minute interview. And then before he got back to the car,
okay, hold on. 16 as in 1 6. Okay.
and he got an offer. And so that just talks about how our process and what we need to be doing today in order to showcase our skills. Because evidently, the company did research on him before he walked in the door. And that's really what we want to see happen. Gone are the days where your first impression is going to be that you talk to someone. Your first impression is what they're going to find out about you and your brand before you even walk in the door. And that's why it makes it possible for people to make a decision of whether they want to hire someone because they've learned about you because you did the work to build your brand, which is one of the major things that we do for our executives.
All right, so I love. Let me recap this for our audience. You are such a symbol for that hero's journey leading up to now, and then how you're using that to help others as well. Like you've gone through the issues of the value chain of producing something with hardware, and gone through the hard rounds of understanding there's operations, there's material, there's supply chain, and there's design, and it's such a long cycle and so much invested in it that your company could collapse if it goes wrong, right?
Absolutely.
So you've seen that fixed capital world in tech, and then got into analytics at a time analytics was really hot, getting hot. And to this day, I work in analytics as well. Many people don't understand the purpose of analytics. You got that sweet exposure of converting analytics not for the sake of analytics, but converting it to impact in that healthcare realm, right? Which is very fascinating. Not many people are able to say that they had that impact. And then coming into Credit Karma, like now you're thinking you've gone from, hey, there's operations of a physical product, then the world opened up and analytics came in of how you could optimize and change the way you provide service and impact. And then with AI being predictive, like taking all of the data that you see now with the digital transformation for those companies that have gone through it, you've taken that in. And I think there's another symbol to it, a market shift. And I'll talk and I'll ask you about it as well. I'm seeing that there's a lot more business leaders like yourself who have seen everything, both from the technical side, the people leadership side, the business side. And they know that talent is the Achilles heel for almost everyone. It's going to be even more so with AI. And the talent themselves who do not become AI fluent and represent in their branding that they're AI fluent, they're going to have a very tough time. And what you've done is you've said, and I'm seeing business leaders jump into this talent domain, because the talent domain for a long time was just outsourced as just HR and not realizing that you're trying to solve a business problem. And it is disheartening for me to see more business leaders step into this space, because I think that is what's required. So fascinating. I think you are the example for why mid-career professionals, senior professionals, why they hold the most value because of the domain and life experience you've brought in. And then you flipped it to say, all right, how do we stand out and how do I help you stand out? So I guess the first question is, I mean, the market is tough right now. Many people are feeling the pain. You've seen some great client stories go through it as well. So guys, let's level set for those who are not aware. What does the market look like right now based on what you're seeing and the company, the people that you're helping?
Yeah, I got a great example of this. I was looking at a video, I call them video cast, which is similar to what we're doing, a video cast, and Andrew Yang, who is a leader, godfather of AI. And what he was talking about was what's happening with the nations right now. You have one nation that really believes in AI and they're changing their infrastructure in order to make the nation better. Right now, it's hard. But in 2 to 3 years, the benefits of actually using AI will affect cropping, will affect hiring, will affect the power grid, will affect every aspect of their life and make them more compatible to what the future is going to bring. Then you have other nations who have not joined the fight. They haven't invested in AI yet. And what's going to happen with them is they're not going to be able to produce crops like they used to produce. They're not going to be able to have the healthcare that they really deserve. They're not going to be able to compete on the world stage because they're going to be so far behind trying to catch up because they decided to take a skeptical view of AI. Now, if we take that same idea and we actually bring it down to the individual, the same exact thing will happen. Those who have taken the initiative to actually grow with AI, their entire life, how they're going to be able to provide for their families, how they're going to be able to be seen by employers. And when they become business owners, they're going to be able to do 10, 20, 30x output based off of just learning the technology. And then you have those who are very skeptical, who are not taking the time to actually improve themselves. The term that I like to use is, we used to use it all the time. Oh, I'm just going to do a lateral move. The reason why most executives are not getting hired right now is because they think they know everything and they think they can just do a lateral move. Nobody can do a lateral move anymore. If you are here, you now need to go here in order to be marketable, in order to be hired. And that differentiation is going to be the strength of how much you know how to use AI to magnify what you do.
I love it. By the way, that perspective around it's like a fight of nations, right? That how you get there, and those who embrace it not only will make it efficient to get the first world services that we've taken for granted and say, hey, we can bring those now in. So there's like a level playing field, and on top of it, we will create that upside, that sort of blue ocean that others have missed, because now with AI, there's the upside as well. It makes us faster and cheaper, but also helps us go further as well. So how, when you see that differential, what are like few things that you think that are missing for what people are not able to close that differential? And what are those success drivers that are helping people close that differential in that market? And
I think,
how is AI playing into it?
yeah, so I want to use the term the AI ethics part because I think AI ethics plays a lot into this. When we are dealing with a society that understands how dangerous AI can be. There are some people who are rightfully so should be skeptical, but being skeptical and not learning it is a problem. The problem is they get skeptical and then they are paralyzed. They can't move forward. But I believe that the what we do with AI and machine learning is just going to shape everything in the future. So I believe that the communication of how you can use AI to better your life is so muddied, and there's so many people out there projecting false narratives because they're interested in making money versus interested in the person being successful. So that's the difference. It is, what are you listening to and who's communicating to you will actually determine whether you take the leap and actually go and learn, or you get paralyzed and you don't really want to be paralyzed, but because you're not getting the right information about how this can actually help your life and proof already in place that talks about the value propositions of what AI can do for you, I really believe that it's the communication gap. Nobody wants to cut their leg off and then talk about they're going to run a race, right? You don't do harm to yourself on purpose. But I think that that's what needs to be communicated, is that by not using AI, you're cutting your arm off, you're cutting your leg off, and then now you're going to be in the same race as somebody who got an enhanced leg and an enhanced arm. So really, I think the major factor is there's too much AI slop, there's too much AI communication that's false, and you have a whole set of people who are getting bogged down by what AI is and how it can hurt them versus how AI can support them and help them. And until we start having more regulation around how AI results are shared and how AI is communicated in the learning sector as well as in the application sector, I think that we're going to still have this big chasm between the people who got the correct communication and started moving forward and improving their lives versus those who got poor communication and they are stagnant. And that's what I see.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is it's mindset. There's mindset around how do you look at AI. Even if you are skeptical, I call it anxious warriors in a company, right? They're like, hey, my job is going to go away, but I'm still skeptical of AI. Either I'm just going to completely ignore it, or I'm going to do a little bit of it so that I can just look busy and that I know something about it, which is where the AI slop is coming in. But it's a mindset that, okay, you have to embrace this and then embrace it in a way that enhances you, right? And there's going to be some discomfort, but that discomfort is less than the discomfort you're going to face when someone comes in and tells you you are done. And so in the way that you've helped leaders as they think about, positioning themselves for roles in this market, how can they display this mindset in, before even like applying for the job, before entering the room, and then in the room, how do they display this mindset and their overall branding around?
So, one of the things that I really love about what we do is that if you ever heard this before, when you read something, you only get 25% of the knowledge when you read it. When you hear it, you get a little bit more. Now, if you read it and you hear it, it sticks more. But then they have the visual side of it. Then, if you put reading, hearing, and vision, then you have maybe 50 to 60% cognition and ability to recall. But when you apply it and it's for a purpose or a role, then it really sticks. And so, what we do with our executives is the whole notion of finding a role and building yourself up and learning is a journey that you can use AI with to actually grow to your next level. So, when people work with us, they actually learn AI as part of the process of getting hired because you're going to need to know how it works anyway. But why not use it in a very practical sense? That is actually pretty dire to you, depending on when you got laid off or what you're trying to do to get to your new role. We teach them to use AI while they're searching for a role. Now it becomes not just something that you read in a book, but you're actually applying it as part of your process to get hired. And let me say this too, companies are paying attention to this. If you're an executive and you are supposed to be resourceful, but you've been out of work for 2 years, they're going to question, wait a minute, you're someone who has all of these skills, you're resourceful. Why are you out of work for 2 years? Something's got to be missing in the gap. And so, what I would say to those today who are watching, if you're an executive or even if you're an IC or a manager and you're trying to get hired, but it's already been a year and you haven't made progress, get some help, period. Most of the people who are in executive roles have no problem investing in themselves to get better so that they can get what they need. What we're seeing today is a lot of people, I call it kicking tires. They want to hear you talk, collect the information from you, but they don't have any clue how to apply it. When we express what our businesses are and what we do, that is a general discussion. The real power comes when we take this knowledge that we're sharing with you and we map it to your personal experience. If that map doesn't happen, you can listen to all this stuff all day, every day, but until it's mapped to your personal situation, you're not going to be able to get the full benefit.
Absolutely, and I'll build an analogy there. First, I love that. So there's mindset, and then there's unless and until you apply it in the flow of work. Whereas, right, not the most valuable thing for you is you're trying to get a job, or you're in a job, you want to position yourself differently. So it's top of mind for you, and where you're applying it is going to stick with you. And that is why companies are struggling with AI as well, because they're not helping them apply it in the flow of work. It's just like another course or another like hackathon, post pictures on LinkedIn, everyone feels happy, but nothing really is changing. And so in there, I will make an analogy around MBA schools.
Hmm.
You would be going in and saying, hey, I'm going to put in about close to $200,000 loan, right? And that loan includes, because you got to network with people, you got to spend there as well, tuition fee, all of that. It's close to, from a good MBA school, it's going to be around $200,000. If you're lucky, you got scholarship and stuff, maybe less, but it's still a big chunk of money. It is the second most expensive thing you're going to buy if you have a mortgage, right? Or if you're ever going to have a mortgage, it's the second most expensive thing. And at that time, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to pay this lifelong. And just go look at the numbers. What's the satisfaction? What is the personalized support that you get? You're paying mostly for access to a network for 2 years of opening your mindset, but even then, you're mostly just connecting rather than just going deeper. Not everyone goes deep, right? I took my MBA very differently, but there you have spent that much money. But if you said to them, I even remember doing my MBA as well, I was like, I'm exploring valuations. And
Hmm.
two analysts from the top banks said, hey, we're going to give a weekend class. It's going to be, I think it was like $500. I'm already in debt. They're like
Hmm.
$500, but if you want to explore what this is, we will not only help you learn, we will give you enough that you could nail any interview. You will know in one day whether this is for you or not. I went through it. I loved the curiosity. I loved learning it. And then decided this is not what I'm going to do. But now I know valuations way more, right?
Hmm.
Because I used to do evaluations from a consulting side. Now I'm doing it from the banking side. Paid $500. There were tons of people who wanted to get into valuations and finance. They're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to pay $500. I'm like, you've
Hmm.
already paid way more. I think when I fast forward in this economy, and you and I have spoken sometimes on our call around this, is someone just got a surprise. Either their job went away, right? Or they know it's gonna go away, or just the writings on the wall. And we're like, okay, in your runway, 6 months from now, when you have less financial runway, and then you are desperate, and someone said, hey, listen, if you give me $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, and I am setting you up so that you can take a loan, but it can set you up to be closing that differential and be eligible to play this game, where this game is headed. You will like, take it. I'm desperate right now because I am getting nothing. But in the start of the journey, if you said, get help, they would not. And it's funny because when I talk to parents as well, because a lot of the professionals mid-career to senior leaders are parents, their kids are going through college or about to go through college, and they would spend $20,000 to $30,000 for something non-guaranteed to get their child help. But I was like, you could spend half of it on yourself and increase your revenue potential and your wealth to continue supporting your child as well and your life. And they're like, no, no, no. I like, why would I spend money on myself? So I completely agree. I think getting professional help, and now because of services like yours, earlier these used to be in very closed rooms available, right? To very senior leaders, you would have an executive coach, and you were like, oh, this is so expensive. I don't know if I can even get that. I think now this has become available thanks to, and you're on social media as well, and I'll ask you later on to share like your handles as well, that you're able to reach people where they are, where they're exploring these things, and they can now get access to a coach, someone who's helping them on AI, and getting them to stand out, right? And I'll end my spiel with this: is like, I mean, I help mid career professionals from a different lens, but when someone asked me recently, he's like, if you were to apply, I haven't applied for corporate jobs for like a year and a half now, but like if you were in this game, what would you do? I'm like, I may not send a resume or a LinkedIn at all, because if someone said, hey, for a year and a half, 2 years, you were building something, sure, we get it, but you were out of the corporate job market. And now you're coming back. So what did you do? And I can talk about it, but the best way is to show. I would send people a custom AI agent that represents me,
Mm,
that has all the knowledge. I will send them the documentation as well, so they know that there is no AI slop here, and say, hey, I'm going to save you time. You have whatever questions you have. This is me. Talk to me. This is like customer Shujaat bot. And that will give you an idea of what I've done, what's my perspective, right? And what I'm building right now. And then you will know, compare this to anyone else, and you'll know I'll stand out. And in that process, I've showed you what? Hey, I've built everything
that's
that you
right.
would have wanted someone to build inside our company, and do it and package it. And the cost of doing that has gone down, right? But I think it comes back to, you need to have a mindset, you need to have applied in your flow of work, and then said, hey, I'm not just going to resume and LinkedIn, I'm going to stand out. So I hear you. I think get help. Get help.
I think that that's coming too. I think the arms race in AI, and especially in the hiring sector, that's coming, where you will have to provide a AI chatbot, and they will have a reviewer that's AI as well. So when you share yours, they'll share theirs, and then they'll filter down people. Then they will bring them in. So the first guard is going to be them being able to get some information from you before they make a choice. And this is another huge aspect of just humanity. Imagine two types of people, one that is AI savvy and the one that's not. It would be almost like they're a completely different species. This species has sort of a chip in their head. And I hate to say it that way, but it's coming, right? This species has a chip in their head, which they have the world's knowledge at their fingertips. And then they're interacting with someone who doesn't have the chip. I actually seen a movie like this recently. And it changes the entire dynamic. There's a sense of feeling inferior off the bat. You know you're not inferior as a human, but when somebody can recall information at the drop of a dime in every subject that you have a conversation with, all of a sudden they're a whole different species. And if we're not careful, that is what's going to happen.
Okay.
They will treat you differently because you didn't develop like you should have developed when you had the time.
It is. And first of all, I'm a movie buff, so you got to tell me what was the movie name. I'll go watch it. Thanksgiving break.
So it's really interesting. It's just I get it. I get the skepticism, but I think we had enough time to be skeptic. We need to actually get on board and start embracing what this change is going to look like. Let me express something that I heard the other day. It probably heard it a month ago, where Jeff Bezos was saying, we will have data centers in space. See, the issue now is all the technology and the energy grid, and that's preventing us from actually expanding as fast as we want to expand. So now they will ship the components in a rocket into space. The rocket The components will assemble themselves, and they will have as much energy as they need to in order to actually run millions and millions of LLMs. And then all of a sudden, that data center comes back down to earth after it's exposed all the heat and everything that was needed to create it. And now you have what, 1 gigawatt of, you use 1 gigawatt, which is like half of America, to actually train your model. And then it comes back, or it stays up there, and the data gets sent to us via satellite. But this is the way they're thinking. And if you
Man,
are
this is like
not, yeah, if we're not even getting to the point of using Chat GPT effectively, how are you going to understand when we actually start taking these things to the next level and you have to actually compete, especially as an executive? I just think that this opens us up for seeing innovation that we haven't even thought of yet. And I think that that's where I try to drive home the most, is that what AI will allow us to do is to invent and have innovation far beyond what we've ever seen. But if you don't even have the basics, how are you going to understand when we created a new drug in 5 minutes? It got through FDA in 1 week and now is curing a cancer that has been around since the lifetime. How are you going to understand that if you don't just get the basics? And so this is where we are. This is this
yeah.
is this is the as a matter of fact, our language will probably change, because when robots are on the scene and walking around with humans, they're going to realize that it's more efficient for them to talk in their language than it is for them to try to talk in our language. So, in my mind, I can see us having some sort of way of slowing down the robot's conversation. So, the robot is, let's assume, talking in an ASCII code. I know I'm just right? And they're talking in ASCII code, but in order for us to understand what they said, we have to put on some sort of glass or decode what they're saying. Because English language or any language is not going to be as efficient as machine language. You see how I'm thinking? You see how your mind has to shift from the basics of how you look at life to where technology is going to take us? Things that people were not able to do before. For example, somebody who wasn't able to type, right? They had a autoimmune disease. So we never got to experience their genius because they've been limited by physical things. And then all of a sudden, they now have a chip in their brain and they can actually interact with us like they've never done before, bringing new innovation into the world. That's one thing. Another one that I've been fascinated about is dolphins and how they communicate. And now we can actually translate what dolphins say into human language to get a sense of how they're so coordinated and I'm just like, you all need to get involved with how AI is changing the landscape. Oh,
Okay, there's so much there. In fact, I love that. So I will share my initial reaction, then also ask a question around this. So I'll go towards the end. Dolphins, I love it because I think long time back there was a book called, like, I think it was the history of the world captured in it. I don't know, I'm forgetting the name of it. I think somewhere in my library, it's like many years back, and I'm looking at it if I still have it in front of me. But it was basically all different facts, things that we did not know about. And one of them was that, the whales and dolphins, like whales, create a specific symphony when they connect with each other. And it's very unique. And that's the way they send messages. And we haven't been able to decode it. And then fast forward, when AI was coming in, I'm like, we have enough data gathered. And the beauty of AI is that you could integrate data, integrate domains data much faster and much better way if the model is trained well than what humans could compute, because probably you would have to have 100 experts and get them to say, hey, how does every research paper that you've done connects? And they were able to now figure out that no, that data at least tells us there is a pattern. That
mm,
pattern is unique, it can't be recreated, but every time it tells that some situation is happening, that they're sending warning signals or like talking signals to each other based on the context. And that's why we could not regenerate that symphony. So that's fascinating what you could do with it. And then on second one, I think there's a level playing field that it is creating. And to take it even just like a simple example for people, right? I was getting my so websites, for example. You talked about language. AI doesn't care what your website design is. You need to have a website right now because humans are asking and they're used to it. The way AI reads off from it, it completely changes the way the UX is there. So if someone was looking at my profile, they'll have to go through the YouTube articles I've written, LinkedIn, all of that. But a human won't be able to make sense out of it. They'll be like, all right, is there a website? Can I what's my look and feel of it? AI doesn't care about that. You put me into perplexity, and I did this like search once, and it synthesized everything about me that I'm like, this should be my pitch. It's saying stuff that even I did not realize to package it together, right? Because it's scraping off, coming back, and so it's simplifying a lot of the noise that humans would have created. So there's benefit in the way the machines are talking to machines.
Yes.
And I'll share a third thing before I ask the dangerous question, which is like, it's machines, but what about humans? I was talked to like a very, on the paper, some very fancy, like web design company, an agency. Came in, all of that, there's a lot of talk. Things just did not go well. And then I go on Upwork. Upwork is very variable, right? And how you get resources. And I was just looking at someone who had crazy reviews. They said in Eastern Europe, everyone review was like, this person is the best. Their communication, their ownership, and their ownership post implementation to fix everything, it is mind blowing. I'm
Mm.
like, I haven't seen this kind of reviews for anyone. So I reach out to that person, say, you know what, I just fascinated with what people have said about you, and I would just want to create a project for you, and that this things I had in mind, what would you like help? Do you want to get on a call? And he told me he could not get on a call because he does not have hearing since birth. So he's like, I can't get on a call. I can type, do asynchronous communication, but if it's a deal breaker for you, please go to someone else. I won't be offended. And I was like, first of all, just imagine this person in Eastern Europe, so I can relate to my like third world country growing up, and you had a disability. So many things would have kept you back. But because of technology, because of whoever helped him and like mentors, but with Upwork, I can connect with him and I read his communication and I'm like, dude, this is way better than any major professional services company. I want to work with this person. And they were able to do it. Now, imagine that same thing with AI. That this person, if you're like judging and saying, well, I don't think they have executive presence, but you're like, well, this person can get 90% of that role done and they don't need to be there talking and public speaking. Give them a different role because they will add value. So it just the amount of level playing field this
Absolutely.
creates, that if you play with technology and learn it. And I think where people, I see a lot of fear coming in. You'd mentioned about, right, reluctance. A couple of months back, I was going through starting my beta test group for my community, and people were like, yeah, sounds good. And that beta test, thankful to those 12 people who like, listen, no, we're going to invest in this. And few months in, there are people knocking at the door saying, hey, when is he doing this public launch? Because we want to be part of this.
Mm.
Because they've seen the writing on the wall that, oh, this is not future work. This is past of work.
Now,
Right?
absolutely.
And the future is what you're getting. Like, they're thinking ahead about building data centers in space and the Avatar movie that we're going to take over the resources and stuff. So I think the biggest fear people have that I see is, where does the human value, the human skills come into play in this equation? And how does that make you more valuable as a leader in this new space? What can you do to make sure that you retain that, right? Like, you retain that and understand that there's a robotic side to this as well.
Mm. So I got two things I want to say about this. The first one that I really love what's happening, where our young people are actually deciding they don't want to go and work for corporate. They don't want to be leaders. They actually want to create their own businesses and allow their true passions to come across. So one, we need to be very careful. If Well, larger companies need to be very careful because now our young people are not interested in the corporate setups that we have. And I think that's going to change the entire dynamic of the industry because they want their own businesses, because they want the freedom to be able to do the things that they feel is right. And that's going to challenge everything. And then when you come down to the individuals, what will happen? What I would think would happen is that it would be similar to the Industrial Revolution, where right now you're given a choice to actually learn freely, get engaged, and things like that. Soon it's going to be forced upon you. So you won't be able to get a job unless they can test your AI aptitude. You won't be able to engage in certain discussions because this certificate or something is going to be required. I think that we're getting to a place where people will not have much of a choice to stay the way that they are, and they're not going to like the forced way of improving. Think about it from the healthcare perspective. How many things do they force us to do first before we can actually get the services that we want? So imagine you are on a healthcare plan and it's going to require you to share the conditions that you have and share your lifestyle and share all of these things in order to actually get healthcare. I see the same thing happening now when it comes to certain areas of technology. That is going to be a forced thing. Right now, you're learning and you have the freedom to learn. I think that eventually companies who want to pay you, they're going to require certain things. And I don't think it's going to be having a full degree. I don't have anything wrong with getting degrees. I think that is important that you learn how to structurally grow and mature, meet people, and know how to learn and have some rigor to how you're being trained. But I think the entire educational system is going to change. I think that everybody will be able to have personalized learning, the way that they learn, and it will even include cultural things that make it easy for you to actually pick up and learn because we're able to tailor these things personally to you. So, last question, humans and robots, where do you see us? How do we fit into this picture? The way that I know that we fit into this picture is all the things that robots can't do. So, they don't have empathy. Empathy drives everything that we do. And if you go to any of the sci-fi movies, they'll tell you like they pretty much can implement anything, but they cannot manage empathy. They can fake it, try our best to train it to have empathy, but it won't have empathy. Then number two, a lot of the things that we create, like we created the AI, we created the robots, right? And yes, at some point they're going to be able to reproduce after themselves, but a human way of creating doesn't require prior knowledge. Think about that. And what I mean by prior knowledge, it doesn't require a domain expertise in this one area in order for me to build something in that area. There are mothers who have had done more inventions for society than any other place. And you know how they were able to do it? Is because they were a mom. And having that experience as a mom helped them solve problems for moms. So no matter what you give a robot and no matter how much information you give it, it's never going to have the same innovation that a mom has. And that's what humans, in my opinion, bring to the table. I think everything gets cheaper with robots, but that's because it's going to use stale data. Humans will take in new data, adapt, collect information from other places, know how much information is enough in order for them to innovate, whereas a machine would never be able to do that. So, my prediction, we will pay less for anything that's robotic. We will pay extraordinarily more for those who can actually think and innovate based off of their human essence.
I love that. That is, you gotta be good at your game, at what you do, human level perspective, being able to harness other perspectives because now AI makes that knowledge easier and cheaper table stakes for you to get. And those who level up, we're going to charge way more as well. There'll be the premium, there'll be the untouchable folks. I am going away with three things. One thing, the word freedom. It's you left corporate, I left corporate to go build something because we had built something financially and career wise that we said we are now going to a lifestyle where we have bought ourselves freedom from trying to work in corporate and trying to go build something. And this is the same thing that you will buy yourself freedom by
Mm,
being fluent with AI now, because it can give you freedom away from the traditional work structures. It will
absolutely.
also give you freedom away from the kind of risks that we can't even anticipate, that black swan events that happen, right? Something crashes, something happens in the market, something happens with AI globally, but you are already ahead of it. So it buys you freedom. It gives you freedom of time, but it also buys you freedom for the future. Degrees, there's no issue with degrees. The issue is when the degree granting institutions started forgetting that they are educating, and they went from degrees to just pedigree. And if you are just focused on pedigree and getting credential, but not the actual learning,
Learning.
right? I think that you're going to have new levels of pedigree now where the real people were transforming, like Geralds of the world, helping, executives, like mid-career folks as well, around how do you stand out and people trust you and they're like, okay, this is the gold standard. You become that. The pedigree is based on the honest human transformation that you're driving,
Absolutely.
right? So Gerald, what is that one actionable takeaway? Right, we're hitting winter break time as well, and people will be thinking about this, about the careers. Whether you're a mid-career person, you're an executive, or you're even Gen Z early in career, what is one thing, actionable thing you should be doing right now to make sure yourself that you're headed in the right direction?
I'm going to say it's with the mindset. You need to be extremely curious and reserve judgment. If you can be extremely curious and reserve judgment, it will take you way farther than a degree can take you. It'll take you farther than the experiences that you get at a company. It'll take you farther in actually how you learn and apply what's happening in humanity right now. And I would say, yeah, being curious and reserving judgment is the two things that you can start doing right now. And then on the professional side, get help. Trying to do it alone is just going to make you delay the inevitable. Work with experts who have been there and done that, who you can validate and trust. And once you validate and trust them, let them help you. Because almost all of the successful executives that I've met throughout my career, they've never done it by themselves. They've always had a coach. They've always had somebody who is in their corner to help them improve. Because we as humans need that connection in order for us to grow. And you thinking you can do it by yourself is probably going to be the worst decision versus working with people in a community where you give to provide insight and knowledge. And what you get from the community is another level of thinking and growth. And that's where the curiosity and reserving judgment come
Okay, I'll wrap that up with be curious, not furious with AI.
in.
Be the fast and the curious, not the fast and the furious in this domain. And I think that others see as community. Like find others, they will help you get better. You will also find that humanity. You'll see, and I'm already seeing like in the community business I'm building as well, that when people talk to each other, they're like, oh, there's a shared purpose, shared interest, shared perspective, shared fears as well. And then you see others improve and it forces you to improve as well in a very non-judgmental way. And community, I think, is the key. Gerald, last question on the light note, like last few questions, I'll do very quick ones. All right. Second, what has been your most like, not necessarily productive, but something creative, something that, brought the child outside of you when you were playing with AI?
Vibe coding.
Okay.
First of all, I'm a programmer, so I have no problem sitting down and writing code. But my ability to code fast and look at all of the different nuances and build something quickly, I can't tell you how refreshing that is. Literally, I knew that I needed to build a blog for my website, and something like that would have probably taken me 2 weeks if I didn't have vibe coding, and it took me 4 hours. And I was so impressed with how fast I can take an idea from my head and actually build it. So if you're not vibe coding, get into vibe coding. It's amazing.
So for those, I have a robotics degree. I've not professionally coded. And I probably failed my coding course in university as well. But I think it is the vibe coding has unlocked like stuff that even for fun. So I'll say my play one was big cricket fan, and then you know how cricket fans from Pakistan, India, they get really, really emotional, and on WhatsApp they will send messages and throw comments at each other and stuff like that. So I, because of learning with I found it very easy that you could just build stuff easy. So I built up like a chat agent in WhatsApp. Did not tell my friends that this is AI. I just said, hey, just chat with it. And what it would do is it basically do banter against you on all the BS you were saying and the myth busting it would do for you. And they're like, what is this? And I'm like, I just built it while on a trip. They're like, I'm like, yeah, I just did it in a few minutes. I just figured out what the custom prompts were, put it in. So that's been the fun part of messing around with it. I love it. All right. Okay. Last thing. I know you're going to be traveling as well in the winter break. What I love travel. I love international travel as well. What is being your best location to travel to, or maybe the one that you're traveling to right now?
Yeah, best location.
Most memorable, most favorite
Yeah,
one.
the most memorable for me, and it'll always be this, is when I got married 20 plus years ago. We took the 7 day cruise and we got to go to different places: Belize, Jamaica, Cozumel, Mexico, Grand Cayman. And from that time, we've taken many cruises since then. So honestly, it's not a destination for me. I really enjoy the cruises and going to different places. And I'm excited because one of these days I'm going to get a chance to go to Alaska, do the Alaska cruise.
Yeah.
So that's really my joy when I go out. Yes, I don't mind traveling, but I love going on cruises and visiting different places.
Love that. And again, he is not for my listeners. He's not just saying this because he has to go back to that Thanksgiving meal with his wife. Hey, if you don't know, search her up. His wife is a force of nature as well. Another amazing, like professional and a business leader. So thanks a lot, Gerald. Thank you for this. Hopefully you have a great winter holidays and upcoming travels as well. This was great.
Thank you. I really enjoy this. It's so good talking with you again, my friend.
All right. Same here. Bye.